What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, I will be covering ADA Cardano and why I was completely wrong about something that I once said was terrible for the project that may have actually saved ADA Cardano as a whole. So what I want to talk about first and foremost is what I was wrong about. Well, whenever I first started talking about ADA Cardano, I was a full-blown ADA maxi. I was talking about ADA every day. I was making YouTube videos about it every day. It was the biggest holding in my portfolio by like 40%. I mean, it was absolutely insane. And then, of course, as time did go on, we did start to just see an underperformance. And that's what happens in this market, right? We saw the smart contracts go live, but realistically, it was not actually ready for smart contracts and projects to be deployed and protocols to be deployed on Cardano. We started to see that the overall ecosystem was not ready to grow as we once thought it was. And for all of those reasons, that underdevelopment and that underproduction from the blockchain and from the ecosystem itself was something that did start to slowly turn me away from ADA just a little, right? Then something started to happen in which we saw that November bull run go into effect. We saw everything going crazy. We saw Facebook change its name to Meta. We started to see metaverse games exploding. We started to see just the metaverse itself exploding. We started to see play to earn games exploding, NFTs exploding. I mean, we saw a full-blown rally. Again, it was short-lived, of course, but it was a rally nonetheless. And what happened during that rally is ADA became the stable coin, right? In which we saw ADA not doing anything. It was not moving with that market. And everyone was asking, well, why isn't ADA doing anything? Why isn't it moving with this market? Why isn't it growing as we started to see Solana exploding and take ADA's spot? As XRP blew up, as BNB blew up, as we started to see metaverse games getting close to ADA's market cap. People were saying, well, why is ADA suffering? And something that I publicly talked about a lot was, well, realistically, ADA is just moving so slow. It's moving so turtle-like that it's not capable of taking advantage of the new waves and the new trends that are making cryptos gain attraction and popularity right now. And that was the truth at the time. I remember in one video, it was around November 20th, that I said ADA's biggest liability is that the way in which they are approaching it stops them from taking advantage of growth that could set them up for even more future exponential growth. And I remember saying that. And at the time, I truly believed it was true. But looking back at it now, I think I was wrong. Now, whenever I talked about ADA, again, I said that I love the project. I think that they're doing a great job of taking advantage of the idea of, application of the scientific method to the distribution and production of their blockchain. I think the way in which they are going about it is very well. But the issue is, again, their movement speed is a liability. And now looking at it in hindsight, of course, hindsight's always 2020. Now that I've, kind of grown a little bit more in knowledge in this market, I've noticed that that was not right. And I think not only was that not right, it was so wrong that same thing that I called a liability, I actually think saved ADA Cardano as a whole. Let me explain. So what we're talking about with this specifically is the kind of comparing this to what happened with Luna with their stablecoin and what we can expect from ADA Cardano coming forward. Well, what we know is that ADA Cardano has been taking its time. Realistically, in terms of overall ecosystem, their ecosystem has grown pretty slow in comparison to the rest of them. I mean, the biggest asset on their ecosystem is MinSwap with, of course, only a 59 million TVL. So in comparison to other things such as, BSC, which we're currently looking at 8.42 billion locked, or even Tron, right? If we go over to Tron sitting there with a 5.9 billion. When you look at something like ADA Cardano, of course, it's just not even remotely similar. It's not even close at 127 million. But what we know is that ecosystem has been developing on the backing of a very, very hard worked on, almost bulletproof blockchain. Now, not only that, though, we need to dig a little bit deeper and think about what would have happened if ADA would have sped up their process, if they would have not taken their time, as we all were kind of mad at them for, and had they pushed things forward. Well, think about what's coming up. One thing that we know is coming up very soon is JED. Now, JED is going to be the stablecoin that is going to be backing ADA Cardano. It is an algorithmically backed stablecoin. So think about what would have happened if ADA would have rushed this process. If ADA would have went forward and said, you know what, we're not taking advantage of these waves. We can't get in on NFTs. We're not in on metaverse. We're not in on play to earn. We're not in on any of this stuff that everyone's excited about. So let's speed this process up. And so they started to develop the ecosystem without taking their time and having it critiqued and doing all of this, peer review and all of this stuff. And they would have just went forward and pushed everything out too quick. And then what would have come? Of course, JED. And they sped up JED. Well, we have to think about something. The moment that UST collapsed, the moment that Luna collapsed, almost every single decentralized stablecoin that is out realistically are all going to be algorithmically backed stablecoins right now. Almost all of them collapsed quite substantially. Why? Because no one trusts them. We saw the destruction of the entire crypto market that did come from the collapse of UST, and did, of course, kind of help the collapse of UST. And one can almost consider that if ADA Cardano had went ahead and rushed themselves into producing all of these things, and kind of got peer pressured into posting all of this and getting it all out there, I would almost expect there was a 100% chance that had they done that and released JED, for example, and JED became, a stable coin with just so much excitement behind it whenever UST was growing in excitement, I believe it would have become too big a part of the ecosystem to be sustainable for a long time, but almost even have become a liability in itself, because when UST itself collapsed, I would almost be willing to guarantee JED would have as well. Now, of course, one thing we have to note is that JED is not the same as UST, so I don't believe that its future will suffer the same fate. We can see here that JED is, of course, algorithmically backed. It is algorithmically backed, but it is over-collateralized. They have a completely different method in which they're going to collateralize JED, and there are going to be other functions of the protocol that are going to halt the protocol, stop the protocol, to produce as much of a minimal risk as possible for this thing going into a death spiral. And I feel like all of these different things in which they are adding has been kind of an effect and a result of sitting back and watching something like Luna collapse, seeing what mistakes were made there and exactly how they can go forward to kind of increase the potential of JED without, increasing risk, as we did see from Luna as well. And that's just one example of things in which they've done. And one reason as to why I believe that as they have taken their time and as they have gone forward and not rushed this process, they actually may have saved themselves from seeing absolutely catastrophic and just extremely detrimental results from falling into the peer pressure of influencers or YouTubers or their ecosystem and economy, community, etc. So, whenever I look at ADA Cardano nowadays, it is something that I learned to value and I do appreciate much more. I think the fact that they are taking their time and they're just simply not rushing a process, especially as we have now entered into a bear market, has shown to be quite substantially beneficial for their future, right? We can see that at one point, realistically, ADA Cardano had fallen, below Solana, below even Dot and ADA were very close to each other at one point. And as you can see, as this thing has played out and as we have started to see the entire market really collapse, ADA Cardano has managed to stay strong. It is still up there relatively close with XRP. It is still up there in that top 6, top 7 spot, and it's holding on quite well. Of course, it's not number 3 anymore like it once was. It's not number 4 anymore like it once was. How could it compete with BNB realistically in terms of overall utility? It can't. But the fact that it's maintaining so well, I believe, is a tribute to the fact that they have taken their time. They avoided some absolutely catastrophic, things that could have been just destructive, right? I mean, again, catastrophic is the best word to use. And so for that reason, I do believe that when I said that the amount of time they're taking to develop is a liability, I think that looking back in hindsight in 2020, I do believe that is actually one of the biggest things that they could have done and probably saved them not only many investors, but also saved themselves years of hard work that could have been down the toilet had we started to see JED, for example, get too big too fast without having the necessary risk minimalizations in place, right? So overall, ADA Cardano is one that I've grown to value, especially as we go into this bear market. And I hope that kind of coming out here and talking about this, I definitely think it will open up a few eyes to say that although it is annoying and though it is boring and though the price has fallen and we're at 50 cents now, I think many people are going to respect the process in which they are implementing, especially as we see something like Solana going offline 4 times this year. Whenever we see things like Luna collapsing, I think many people start to value that boringness of ADA Cardano and start to realize that as they do continue to build up a foundation that is strong, it very possibly could lead to some absolutely amazing growth results, especially going into the future. So with that said, I just wanted to talk about that. I think that that is a very big thing that I talked about a lot. I said it was one of their biggest liabilities. So in my opinion, it does change so substantially. I always want to update you guys. And of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, of course, you can always let me know simply by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I will see you all next time. Peace.